Katherine is in my Inner Circle program, and in Inner Circle, you get to have unlimited text messages with me in addition to a few other things that are pretty cool. And I got a text from her just a few minutes ago where she told me something was really working with her membership. We had been working on this for a little while, so I was very excited about it. And I thought I would have her jump on Zoom with me just for a few minutes to talk through it because she's in those early stages of it, but already seeing great traction. And so I wanted you to be able to see behind the scenes of what happens when you start your membership, like we've talked about in a few of our videos.
Hello, my name is Dr. Katherine Sophia Bell. I am founder of La Belle the Academy with signature programs for high achievers, happily unmarried, erotic empowerment, and exit strategies. And within high achievers, I also have La Belle Writers. I am also author of Hannah Arendt and the Negro Question, which is over here on one side, and Beauvoir and Bell, a Black feminist critique of the second sex.
So you are part of my Inner Circle, which has been so fun. How long have you been in Inner Circle?
I joined in maybe February or March of this year. I enjoy it a lot. It was very helpful for me as somebody who used to be a professor. I'm used to how like the academic world works, and I'm transitioning into the business and entrepreneurship world. And so I wanted to be intentional about being in community with other entrepreneurs. I love working with Black women, especially Black women who are just connected to the community and giving to the community. And you came through in that way. So when I saw that it opened up, I had already joined the online teachable course. I think it was called Spark at the time. And so I was already in that course. I could see the value from that course and said, okay, I want to be more intentional to get more hands-on. In my previous life, I had a huge network of mentors, of sponsors and things like that. And I'm like, okay, it's time for me to build up a network in my current life and my future life around entrepreneurship. And so you are a major part of that mentorship and network now.
If you're getting value from this video, you may be the perfect candidate for my new community, Arlan's All Access. Over the next 12 months, I am teaching 100 people how to make an extra $100,000. In my Arlan's All Access community, I will help you grow your personal brand, unique skills, network, and impact to add at least $100,000 to your income within 12 months. Go to the link in the description below to join while there's still room. And some of the work we have been talking about that you are doing is something that we wanted to talk about today, which is your membership, your cohort. Can you, from a bird's eye view, explain exactly what you offer today?
So this is something that I started actually in 2020. It wasn't necessarily as a membership program. I would just kind of email my email list and say, okay, actually how it started in 2020, I was trying to finish the Beauvoir and Bell book. And I was kind of writing in isolation. It was the pandemic times, we were staying home, working from home, isolated. And so I emailed my email list for La Belle Academy and said, hey guys, I'm finishing up this book. I think it should take me about 6 weeks to wrap it up. Who wants to finish their book with me? Because a lot of people on my email list are writers, are professors. So I got a bunch of people to sign up. So we did 6 weeks. Of course, we always underestimate how long it's going to take us to finish a thing. So 6 weeks turned into another 6 weeks, turned into another 6 weeks. And then eventually we realized like, oh, this is a beautiful community. We have something going. So then I ended up just making it kind of a month-to-month annual thing where everybody could kind of purchase month-to-month to participate in the group. And it became a really beautiful and transformative space. There were women in the space it's all women in the space, but a lot of us are mothers. So it was helpful for somebody who had a child to see somebody holding a child or pregnant or whatever the case may be and still showing up for the writing, or dealing with the demands of a family and also showing up for writing. It was helpful for people who have other demands in their life in terms of, again, for professors, it's research, teaching, and service. And a lot of times the research kind of falls by the wayside because the teaching and the service kind of takes up more time. So it's important to protect your time, to have the writing time. And so it became a space where you had something on your schedule to show up and to write every day. You weren't writing in isolation. So people just found like, oh my goodness, I'm actually getting my writing done. I'm inspired by everyone there. And like, this is a magical space. How do we keep it going? So it started in 2020 and then I kept it going.
This is a really interesting take on a free trial. So Katherine seemed to have these group working sessions where you could write together and talk to each other. Maybe it was silent. This was a way for people to understand what it could be like to be in a future membership. I thought that was really clever. This is something that you could do. So instead of just a webinar, and a webinar is great, but instead of just a webinar, you could have a workshop. You could have a group ... session depending on what your topic is. So what if you had a Zoom call where you had your audience get together and say, this is my dream car. And everybody's writing down their dream car. They're doing a little research online to see how much it costs and how much maintenance is and gas. And so they have all these numbers. And this is kind of a Trojan horse to understanding expenses because you are teaching them accounting. And this is something they could each go around the room and say what their dream car is and how much it costs. And you see how that could be something fun. That's an interesting way to do it. And I think that Katherine is doing an even better version of that, which is everybody gets to do something together.
I took a break last year because I retired from my philosophy professor position. And so I just took a sabbatical from everything. I left the philosophy position, but then I also took a break from La Belle Academy, from the coaching and everything, just so I could get like a nice rest, a reset. I joked that I was a lady of leisure for about 6 months where I didn't really do too much of anything. And now that it's been a full year since I resigned/retired from that professor position, I'm really being more intentional about building La Belle back up. And so the first thing to come back that everybody was really clamoring for was the writers. So even like today, we had our official first relaunch date. And so many people who were in it before was just like, thank you so much for bringing this back. I really missed this. So it was a beautiful kind of starting point for the membership because I already had a community of people who had been doing it, who were happy to come back into it or invite other people into it.
Before you and I had our last conversation about this, what was the state of things?
Because I have multiple programs, I was thinking about, okay, do I do a membership with all the programs or some of the programs, or where do I start? And as I was talking through it with you, you really encouraged me, and I love this so much. It was just like, okay, what do you really love doing? What do you identify as? What are you most known as? And then you also had a moment where you're just like, okay, I'm going to tell you something that you probably like you should know, but I'm going to say it because it seems obvious, but it might not be obvious. Like, more than any of these other things, you're known as an author. Like, you literally have your books behind you. So what would it mean for you to just focus in on the writers? And then you can kind of build other things around that. And that was the thing that had already been successful. It already had buy-in. It already had people who were just like, okay, when is it coming back? When is it coming back? And so instead of me trying to figure out like how to build up these other signature programs, you encouraged me, okay, focus on the thing that's already working and the thing that you already do and love. And that was like, it was just like, okay, why am I making this harder than it needs to be? Like, let me do the thing that both I love doing because I am still a writer. I'm still writing. I'm working on another book now. And the thing that a lot of people wanted and missed when it was gone, when I was on sabbatical.
We talk about this a lot on this channel, where we talk about combining what you love doing with what the market is willing to pay for. And this is a perfect example of that. So then after our conversation, I know that you had planned on going back out to your mailing list and saying, hey, we're bringing this back. And how did that go? Oh, and how much time did that take?
I think when we spoke, it was early July. So I had already been like sticking my toe in the water. So I decided the last week in June, I emailed the email list and said, I called it, I'm having 1 week writing bliss, 1 week of writing bliss. We're bringing the band back together. Who wants to hop on for 1 week? And I offered that complimentary. I said, we're going to do a 1 week complimentary writing bliss. And so a bunch of people came back. And again, they were saying how much they missed it and everything. And I was still kind of trying to decide which direction I was going to go in. And then I talked to you right after that 1 week of writing bliss. And you were like, okay, just go with this. So the last week of June, I did 1 week of writing bliss complimentary to the email list. And I think I'd also put it out on my social media. And then I did a second week in July. And then I did this last week of July. So I did 3 individual weeks of like just a 1 week kind of, if you were already in it, you could get back in it. Or if you never heard of it or didn't do it before, you could get a sense of what it was like. And then I officially launched today on August 1st. And so there was some participation in each of those 1 weeks of writing bliss. And again, several of those people were what I call the OGs, the original people who were in the group from 2020. And then some people were new people coming into the group. And then that way, when it officially launched, then I could have people who were registered, who were, happy to register for the paid program, knowing that it was going to be going on moving forward.
And then what is the cost, like the cost for someone who's brand new and wants to join? What do they pay?
So the cost for someone brand new who wants to join is $99 a month or $10.89 a year. So if you do the annual version, then you're basically getting like a month for free with the annual version.
And I know a lot of people ask me, how do I even get those people on that mailing list to start with? Because it seems like if you go from scratch, that's impossible to do. How many people are on your mailing list today? And how did you get them onto your mailing list?
So I have a relatively small mailing list. It's like maybe 375 people on my mailing list. And I've been coaching for a long time. So the way that I started to build my mailing list initially, and this is before you had like ConvertKit and all of these forms that you could fill out, if I was ever giving a talk or if I was ever doing a workshop related to my coaching or related to my workshops and things like that, I would always take a sign-in sheet and have people sign their name and fill out their email address. And so it was very old school when I first started building up the mailing list, probably like around 2011, 2012, 2013. And then as I kind of got some email providers, like I was on Constant Contact, I switched over to ConvertKit. Now there are things that you can kind of send out to people or have people click on social media in order to join the list. But I think the majority of my list was built just from me speaking and literally collecting emails and names and spaces.
So you see, you can have a smaller mailing list and have a lot of impact there. She has fewer than 400 names on her mailing list today, and it sounds like most of them came from in-person interactions. So what do we learn from this? We want to make sure you're speaking out in public. Make sure you're getting those gigs. At the beginning, it's going to be for free. And then as you build, you can start getting paid for it. But you can see the value of getting on those stages and then having a way for people to sign up to your mailing list on the spot. So either that's physically, you have a clipboard, you have a list that they can write it down. That's a kind of a cool old school way to do it, I think. And today you could have a QR code on the screen behind you that people can go and sign up. So you say you do a 15-minute conversation or talk, and you say at the end of it or all throughout it, this is the QR code, go sign up to my mailing list to get the list that I mentioned, or to get ... that I mentioned, or watch the free course that this group gets to have. So you have 375 people on your mailing list, and you have an offer that is approximately $1,000 a year, and people are already signing up.
Yes.
So what do you think are the ingredients for that to be true? What about your offer makes people want to sign up to it? And I think that answer will help other people create their offer.
I think it's the value of a proven result and transformation experience. So the overwhelming majority of the people who signed up are people who had already experienced me in some way, either again through coaching or through a talk or actually through the writing group and writing program. So they already knew the transformation experience. And I think, to be honest, there were some people who were paying. And then when I stopped, thought, okay, well, I actually don't need to pay for this. And then when I offered the free weeks and they came back, there were people who said, when you were out, I was thinking, I really don't need to pay for something like this. But now that we're back, like you're paying to kind of for the community, for the support, for the encouragement, and just for the container and accountability of like, this is where I'm supposed to be at this time. And I'm investing money to invest my time in doing this thing. So what's interesting to me, I think it was both the value of the transformation that had already been experienced, because people were like projects that were stalled. They were actually finishing projects that had been stalled for a long time. And then I think it was also realizing, like, in the absence of it, they missed it when it was gone. And so they were really happy to hear it come back.
Do you have a financial goal? Do you have a number of members goal? Or do you have some other type of milestone marker?
So I would say it's all three. So financially, I would say my goal is at least to start out, and we can take it from there. But to start out, I would say my goal would be like 10,000 per month. That is like a steady 10,000 a month, and then I can kind of grow from there. My membership for that would be about 100 members. Steady. But then beyond the financial and the membership goal, it really is, I appreciate and love being in a place of empowering people to really connect to their writer identity and take the time to do the writing. Because again, I love being a writer. I love writing. I love putting my work into the world through books. And I love being able to provide a space as a predominantly Black and woman of color space for us to come together and do that in community. And one of the staples of the program is not just the writing time, because we take specific times to write, but we also do check-ins where I offer group coaching. And there's also peer coaching that happens, right? And so there's something powerful that happens in one-on-one coaching, but there's something that can be even more powerful about group coaching, because everybody learns from one another. So because I attract so many high achieving, really smart, very experienced people into the program, they get the benefit of hearing and learning from each other around things like, balancing your research and your teaching prep, or things like putting together your book proposal and negotiating in advance.
Katherine's big goal is to have 100 monthly members so she can have approximately $10,000 per month. This reminds me of my friend Jay Klaus, who has a great YouTube channel and has a membership. And I think it is capped at 200 people, if I'm not mistaken, because he wants it to be very valuable for everyone involved. And I think he's close to 200, if not there already. And he built most of that on YouTube. He was a podcaster. He's on arlansacademy.com. And I think he did the bulk of the membership using YouTube. Let's see what he has to say about it, because I know that it can be helpful to you.
I'm basically building a media company that spans wherever I can find my typical customer avatar. So it's a bunch of different platforms. But at the end of the day, I'm trying to help people become professional creators. It took me 7 years to get to where I am today. People look at what I'm doing now. And yes, the Creator Science brand is 18 months old. But people are like, man, this guy came out of nowhere and everything's so fast. Everything's going so good. It's like, actually, I've been working at this for 7 years and it felt slow as all get out. It was like I was walking through the mud. I've been a part of enough communities that I knew there becomes a tension with the way you construct the community and the value you provide and what happens when that scales. If you are trying to create a community where it's about peer-to-peer connection, when you get to a point that's several hundred, close to 1,000, or certainly more than 1,000 people, it becomes more and more challenging to deliver that experience that you were delivering when it was a smaller community. And I just decided I don't even want to deal with trying to scale this. I would prefer to keep this small by design and invest more of my time and effort and attention into a smaller number of people and keep it small enough that people feel like they know the other people around here. But I had to figure out what that looked like financially, because I wanted, in the beginning stages, when there were only a few members, I wanted that to be worth my time. And I wanted to project forward a year from now, 2 years from now, if we're full, do I still feel like this is incentivizing me to spend the kind of time into it that it requires? So I made this complex calculator, which is in the course, to help myself determine, at this price point, with these tiers and some assumptions, like this many members, how much will that generate and how will I feel about that? And this is kind of what it worked out to be, to make me feel like if I kept this place great and everything else went to garbage, would my business, would my family be okay with that? And these were the numbers that made the most sense. If you look at the last 2 years of revenue, the majority of it is from my membership. You know, the work that I was doing in Slack that led way to the work I was doing with Pat in Circle, which led way to me going back out on my own and starting my own membership. That has been transformative to the business.
So what you're also saying is that it's not just about you leading these discussions and having this program. It's about the other people in the group.
Absolutely. It's the strength in numbers, right? It's the strength of like having a multitude of experiences in the room and everybody kind of coming together to support and encourage each other.
It sounds to me that you have done a really great job of being extremely niche and finding a very focused avatar of, and we talk about that all the time, right? Who is your dream customer? Who is yours? How would you describe them, like their demographics first?
Predominantly Black women, women of color, high achievers, professors, although there are some people in there who are not professors, who are in writing disciplines or who identify as writers, whether or not they want to stay in the academy. So there are people who are still academics in the group, and there are people who, like myself, who've left the academy or who want to leave the academy. But it's primarily, Black women, women of color, high achievers, writers who are doing all the things and want to really fiercely protect that writing time.
Did you specifically know to have the right people on your mailing list? Yes, they came from seeing you in person, but the conversations you had in person seemed like they were at a very specific kind of place too, right?
I think I've been able to attract people who are in similar spaces that I'm in. And so the reason that they were interested in coming to one of my talks or coming to one of my workshops or joining the email list or being coached by me is like, either I'm doing something similar that is them, or I might be a few steps ahead or doing something slightly different that they can learn from me from. You know, there have been people who are more senior than me, for example, in the group, as well as people who are more junior than me. But again, we're all able to exchange and share information. And I find, again, Black women and women of color tend to be very generous around sharing information, supporting and encouraging one another. And so that's who I've been able to attract into the space. And then also, you know, initially I wasn't even necessarily advertising about it. It was, and this is with my coaching as well, it had been for a long time, mostly word of mouth. And those kind of referrals for me have always been stronger because you're referring people who you know would be a good fit and people you would want to be in the space with.
Wonderful. Okay. Is anything that you've learned along the way, even if it was a hard lesson, because I think those are the most helpful too.
I find it's very helpful to interview is too strong a word, but have conversations with the people who are in the community to get some feedback. So one of the things that I did that I found really helpful was I did IG lives with the people who finished their books so that we could hold up their book and they could talk about like, okay, what would, you know, how did you come to Liability Writers? What was your experience there? Tell me about the origin story of your book and tell me about, you know, your book project. And those conversations I found were so eye-opening for me to again hear what they were getting out of the space, things that I hadn't necessarily been thinking about. So I remember one person in particular was just like, you pour so much into us, and I don't know that you know and understand how meaningful that is for us. I'm trying not to tear up thinking about that. So that was really helpful for me to hear from them. And it's like, I know, of course, like we're always expressing appreciation and gratitude, but there's something about saying it in that way that was really meaningful for me. Like, oh, this is important. Like, this is work that I'm doing that's important and meaningful because it means I can stay connected to my intellectual community, even though I've stepped away from the academy.
Yeah, it sounds incredibly fulfilling. And this is early days. Would you say you have fewer than 20 members today?
I have fewer than 20 members right now.
Yeah. So these are very early days. And I wanted you to jump on this call so quickly because you're at this spot where you've taken the leap and you've seen that early traction and you're really living out your purpose while being able to create this foundation for what could be your 10K a month or more. So that's very exciting. So it sounds very fulfilling. It sounds like you're helping a lot of people. And also the coolest thing about it is that the more people who join, the better the community becomes.
Yes.
And more rich it becomes.
Absolutely. And it's been beautiful. It's been kind of a homecoming again for the people who were in it ahead of my sabbatical, and then a beautiful welcome for people coming into the community. And because there are people who've already been there, they already set the tone. So people coming in kind of know how to step in and get into their groove and get into their stride and be a positive member of the community as well. So that's been beautiful to watch too.
You mentioned that you use IG, Instagram. Do you use YouTube yet?
I'm just starting a YouTube channel. So I'm going to record my first video because I'm already cute. I'm going to record my first video next day, actually, and I'm going to post it. So I'm excited about that. So that's something that I'm getting into that I will be watching more of your videos on as well. And then I've been working with someone named Stephanie Perry to help me get that started as well.
Yeah, I think that's going to be transformative for you with this because you have the books, you have these topics. A piece of it was you had so many topics that you're an expert in. You wanted kind of one vehicle for it all. And this will be an interesting way. I would also suggest with your YouTube that you niche down, especially when you're starting out. If you put up 10 videos, you may get a few views, but if you keep doing that and it's about the same topic, just presented in a little slightly different way with more information, YouTube will start to understand who you are and start to bring you to where you need to be. And remember, it's not about YouTube trying to get you out to as many people as possible. It's about YouTube trying to help the viewer see as much for them as possible. And so when you think of it in that perspective, it's like, what is the highest value I can offer to an audience, just like you've done with your newsletter and your membership.
Thank you.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. This has been incredible. I'm looking forward to watching how this unfolds.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And thank you for the encouragement along the way. Like, I've gotten exactly what I need out of this. Just talking to you, texting you, and, doing the check-ins and receiving the encouragement has been beautiful. So it's been great being a part of the inner circle.
Thank you.